So we are here today to talk about fantasy football. And before we start, I want to make sure you guys know where you can find the show. You can find it on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. I am Jason Gandhi. I am with Dylan Staggy and Dan Majors today. This is going to be our first fantasy football episode. Today we're going into the quarterback. It should be a really good podcast. It'll be talking about specific QBs. We'll talk about the position in general, what your strategy is when it comes to drafting. And we're going to do this for every single position: quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker. I'm pretty sure the defense and kicker will be the same episode because who wants to hear an episode on the kickers?
And it might be really short, too.
It could be like 5 minutes. But let's get into it first. Dylan, that's Dylan Staggy. You can find him on Twitter at StaggyDylan. Dan is with me, like I said, at DMajors44. I'm Jason. You can follow me on Twitter at JGandhi2425. So, let's get into some specific quarterbacks. The first one I'm going to ask you about is Drew Brees. How do you guys feel about Drew Brees as a fantasy quarterback? His pass attempts dropped a little bit, and now the Saints are relying on their running game with the two-headed monster of Kamara and Ingram. Do you guys still view him as an elite fantasy quarterback?
Well, I think it depends on what you say by elite. I have him at number 7, and that's where he's currently being drafted on ESPN. However, he's only ranked at number 11, so if you do your drafts on ESPN, watch out for him. You could get a good value. I don't think he's a surefire top 5 quarterback like he has been in years past, but there's definitely some potential for his throws to go back up this year a little bit with Mark Ingram out the first 4 weeks. And he only had 23 touchdown passes last year. I also expect that to go up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely had a down year last year. The 23 touchdowns will go up, but I would take him out of Tier 1 and put him 5 to 7. He's still a very reliable pick, and he can, like I just said, he can put up better numbers than last year, even with a good running game with Mark Ingram.
Yeah, see, I kind of disagree with you guys. I see no reason to expect too much of a drop-off from Drew Brees. He actually set the single-season all-time record for highest completion percentage. He also had the lowest interception rate of his career, so I have no worries about Drew. He has Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Mike Thomas, and Ted Ginn Jr. That's so many weapons that he can use at his disposal. I think last year it was more of a breaking-out season. This year it'll be, we know what we've got. Let's go back to what we can and have Drew Brees throw the ball a lot. His touchdowns, like we all agree, are going to go up, I think, a little bit. Mark Ingram's out for the first 4 games. That's going to let him throw it out more. I see Drew Brees as a definite top 5 quarterback, and I even have him a little higher than top 5. I'm definitely getting my hands on Drew Brees if you're drafting quarterback early.
But why would you go back to that if you're the Saints? Because last year they had so much more success by running the ball a lot more, and their defense helped out too. Their defense was very solid, which allowed them to not to throw the ball as much, run a little more because, Drew Brees not getting in these big shootouts anymore.
I don't know why not. I think if you can have Drew Brees still light it up, you might as well. Obviously, you have a running game now to support him, which just makes him that much better. I still would give him the ball before I gave, like if I needed one play, I'm still giving the ball to Drew Brees before I give it to Alvin Kamara, before I give it to Mark Ingram. Like if I'm the Saints, not from a fantasy perspective, like as a pure Saints perspective, I'm still giving the ball to Drew Brees with the game on the line. And so, yeah, like you have a running
this
game.
Isn't game on the line though. Like,
right,
it's fantasy. Like, however many attempts
you just asked me about the Saints.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, like with the Saints, like I'm still giving the ball to Drew Brees. A running game's only going to help you. Like
I agree, but why would it change from last year? I guess.
Yeah, they had so much success last year.
Yeah, but everyone knows what's coming. They know how to stop Alvin Kamara. This is the same thing you see with rookies that are breakouts in the NBA and the NFL. You're great for 1 year, but as soon as teams have a scouting report on you, then what? Like it just depends on now a whole season that we all know what to expect from Alvin Kamara. So you're going to have to go back to what worked with Drew Brees. I would 100% rely on Drew Brees before I would bank on Alvin Kamara or Mark Ingram because we've seen Brees do it at such a high level for so many years. I would not worry. Like I don't think he's going to go for 700 attempts, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's right around 600 like he has been most of his career. He's been in like the high 650s. I'd expect him to be around 600, 610. He's at 536 attempts last year. I just don't see much of a downgrade because Kamara and Ingram aren't going to be able to run like crazy like they were last year.
Yeah, I don't think he's a drop-off from last year at all. I just think he'll be about the same.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good last year. Maybe not from a fantasy perspective because he didn't get all the attempts because the Saints had a better run game and a better defense. So he still had an amazing season, though. But like Jason mentioned, he was very efficient when he did it, but that's because of the attempts being lower.
I mean, he's always been efficient. I don't think that's something new that he's efficient. For me, I think Kamara and Ingram are going to be slowed down. Kamara is not going to be some stud running back. I think they're both going to be good. Like, they're going to be a good two-headed running back tandem, but they're not going to be best in the league like they were last year. Like, they are bound to slow down. And if the Saints want to pick up that production, they're going to definitely need a guy like Drew Brees to step up, and that's the guy I'm putting my money on. I definitely see him as a top 5 quarterback, personally. Let's go to Andrew Luck. He has been hurt all of last season. It's been a shoulder injury. Dylan, what should we expect from Andrew Luck?
Yeah, so I think he'll come back as very solid Andrew Luck. But, I mean, you do have to put an asterisk next to him because of the injury and because he hasn't played in a while. I think he gets off to a slower start, but he's going to really get it going by the end of the season. This is the best offensive line he's ever had, and because of the lack of a 3-down back and a bad defense for the Colts means that he'll get plenty of pass attempts this season. So I think just because of the attempts is reason enough to justify Andrew Luck having a solid season.
Yeah, I would expect a lot of question marks from Andrew Luck, and he will be a backup for me, if anything. And I play with a lot of Colts fans because we're from Indiana, and so I probably won't be getting him at all. So,
yeah, I'm doing the same thing I did last year. I'm staying the hell away from him. I don't want to bet on a guy like that who has so many question marks with his shoulder. I don't want to have to be hoping he stays healthy every week. Injuries are going to come to your fantasy team. There's no reason to draft somebody that's pre-broken already. There were 617 days between starts from his last start. If he starts on week 1, that'll be 617 days. I just do not want to put the quarterback is a very valuable position in fantasy football where, like you said, if I would get him for some reason, I would definitely use him as a backup at best. Yeah. I would take much more guys before I got Andrew Luck because he's just not worth that risk of getting a guy that's hurt on your roster.
Yeah. Would you take him as a starter?
I mean, not a high starter, but I think it's definitely worth a look. I mean, you would get a good backup with him, but I think I would put him closer to starting level because, again, he's going to throw the ball a lot of times this year.
So he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback?
Yeah, I would say he's a top 10. I mean, closer.
I wouldn't put him top 15.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, he's just not worth that risk. Like, you look like if I'm drafting, I would much rather have a guy like Jared Goff, much rather have a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. All those guys were like, they'll at least be on the field. Not Jameis because of his 4-game suspension. But everyone else, at least they'll be on the field. I mean, I don't think Luck makes it to. I don't think Luck plays 12 games this year. I think he could be cut short at 9 to 10. Like, he's just not.
I mean, I just don't really know.
Exactly. You don't know. He could play 1 and get hurt again. I think he's just not worth the risk when the quarterback class is deeper than we've ever seen it. And that's something I want to get into later. Are we good on that Andrew Luck stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to, are there any 2018 rookies that could produce like Deshaun Watson did?
I say no one will be like Deshaun Watson, obviously, because he was just so great last year. The one that will start the earliest will probably be Josh Allen, but I don't trust him on my team. The only thing I've thought about is drafting Baker Mayfield late and keeping him if they decide to start him in the second half of the season, but I'm still not sure he'd be a great addition. I'm going to stay away from rookies this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can draft any of these guys because we don't know if any of them will play at all this year. I mean, some of them are definitely going to get some playing time at some point, but we just don't know when. And again, even if they do play, none of these guys have the same kind of weapons that Deshaun Watson had to work with last year in DeAndre Hopkins. But if I had to pick one, it would have to be Josh Rosen because currently he is still in the mix for the job, unlike some of these other guys like Baker Mayfield, who has already been ruled out of starting week 1 with Tyrod Taylor in there. And also, Bradford could get hurt too. He obviously has a bad injury history. And then Rosen, if he did get to play, he also has David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, for me, I'd be shocked if it happened. I mean, Watson's season shouldn't be the baseline for rookies. He had multiple games with 4 or more touchdown passes. I'd be happy if one of these rookies does that once. I just don't think that's realistic. But if I had to go with somebody, I'd go with Baker Mayfield. He's got the running dynamic that Watson had, but also he's got the best wide receiver group of these quarterbacks. He's got Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, and those are the best receivers that rookies have. He could ball come November or December, but I just don't know if he's going to play like we all kind of said. So I just don't think it's worth the risk. Dan, you mentioned taking him as a backup.
Not a backup. I don't know. I'm taking him late if I am going to take him.
Yeah. If you're in a
I'd take him
really
in a
deep
dynasty
league.
I mean, if it's a dynasty league, you're definitely grabbing him. But if it's a dynasty league, I'd go Josh Rosen first. I think he's going to have the best stats-wise of a quarterback because he's going to play like Drew Brees. He's going to drop it 40, 50 times and let it fly.
I'd probably go Darnold before Mayfield, too.
Yeah. Dylan, who'd you go if you had to do a dynasty draft? Who are you going number one of these quarterbacks?
I would say Mayfield because I think he's the surest thing with a team around him. Guys like Allen and
Wait.
Allen and Darnold.
You think the Browns have safest team around him?
For the future, I'm talking about. For the Cardinals, I mean, and Rosen, I would say would be second. But I think the Browns have a decent setup for success for Baker Mayfield.
Gosh. When was the last time someone said that? Jeez.
I mean, he has the best weapons around him right now.
Actually. I'm thinking about this. I think I'd probably take Lamar as my guy if Rosen's gone. I'd probably go Rosen, Lamar, Darnold, Mayfield, Allen. Because Jackson's got that Deshaun Watson type game. I mean, if you're looking at who's got the closest game of these quarterbacks, it's Lamar Jackson. But he's not going to touch the field this year unless Flacco gets hurt.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, the Ravens have been using him a lot, and they've been vocal about trying to get him on the field.
But he's not going to start.
I wouldn't
he's
cut
not
it
worth
out.
a play. He's never worth a play. Like, you might get a carry. You might get, a one pass attempt a game. But, I don't think he's worth it. He's not going to, they're not going to run a 2 QB system in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it's better prospect to touch the field this year than a lot of guys.
I mean, he's the fifth. I think he's by far the fifth most likely quarterback of the 5 rookies.
To touch the field this season?
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, of the 5 to, start
a
game.
Oh, he's the least likely.
Yeah, he's the least likely. Yeah, he's 5 of 5.
So.
Who do you think's less likely to?
I mean, at least early in the season.
You
think Lamar Jackson got earlier than later?
I mean, just because of how much the Ravens have been
start a
using
game.
him. Yeah. If Flacco plays bad, I mean, just how much the Ravens have been trying to do these things.
But that would be I think I would agree with you. Who's the first one to touch the field? Probably Lamar Jackson, who's will come in for a wildcat play, or come in has some weird package. But in order of starting a game, I don't think he's starting one game unless Flacco gets hurt.
I mean, I wouldn't really bet on it either, but I think he'll touch the field more than some of these guys.
But not the most, I wouldn't say. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the safest to get on the field is Josh Allen, just because you don't know what's happening in Buffalo. And like I said, I think if I had to put my money on who would be the last one to go in, it'd probably be Lamar Jackson, because he's got the proven starter in front of him. Sam Darnold, I'd say, but Josh McCown has injury history. If Josh McCown was a safe, healthy guy, I'd be oh, he's not touching it. But I don't know. It should be interesting with these rookies. This is where I wanted to get into with you guys. What is your strategy for drafting quarterbacks, and has it worked thus far for you? Like I mentioned, this is the deepest the QB position has ever been. So do you like waiting, or do you really want to jump on these guys like Brady and Brees?
Well, I play with a lot of guys that take quarterbacks early, which I love. There's a lot more quarterbacks that will produce the same than there are running backs and wide receivers. The skill positions are where you want to be in the first 3 rounds. The first time I ever even consider taking a quarterback is the 4th round, but even then I'm most likely not going to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, 9th to 10th round is usually when I turn my attention to the quarterbacks in a 10 to 12 team league. I mean, it's just not that great of a strategy to pick one up top, especially for Rodgers or Brady when they have them ranked so high. And there are going to be people that you play with, a lot of people that will take these quarterbacks early because they just misvalue them. And really, you look at these tiers. Obviously, the top 2, I would think, with Rodgers and Brady. Then below that, you have Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Watson
in the first tier. But
I mean, however you think about that, these guys, is there that much of a difference than drafting guys from 8 to 20 even? I wouldn't say it's big enough of a difference for me not to wait.
To the 9th or 10th round?
I think 8th or 20 is a bit of an exaggeration. The 20th best quarterback is definitely not close to the 8th, but I do agree with Dylan. For me, I wait until I've got about 4 running backs and 4 receivers. So if that's 9th round, then but I try to get 4 receivers and 4 running backs that I'm comfortable with, because I want to have depth at both in case I get a David Johnson that gets hurt, or in case I get a Ezekiel Elliott who gets suspended. Like those type situations, I try to always have 2 starters on my bench technically. Like I have 2 starters at each, and I try to have 2 more on my bench to be ready to go in case someone gets hurt before I look at quarterback. And the reason for that is, I mean, Dylan, you said the 8th and the 20th. This is not as big of a gap, but the top quarterback to the 12th quarterback was a 5-point per game difference. So you look at that difference between number 1 and 12 in the magazine I used was Phillip Rivers and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you're going to play at most usually a 12-team league.
Yeah.
That's where I think I don't know. I think it definitely makes sense to not go top. I think, see, this is how I feel. If you're not going to go top 3, don't go early. I think, Dylan, what you were saying is where like Rodgers and Breeze don't make sense at all. Personally, I always get tempted to take Brady. I'm always like, I want to, but I can't. But like, I would go for Rodgers, Wilson, or Brady. But then, like, when you go to Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, those type guys, it's like, okay, now wait. Because then there's not that big of a difference.
But those are normally gone by the time.
Yeah, I mean, with our leagues, Andrew Luck's taken first round by a Colts fan.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing with a lot of people that, again, don't value the QB that much, and Rodgers or Brady staring you in the face, I think that's a viable strategy. But
I think their draft strategy, like where they're listed ADP-wise, isn't bad. But the thing is, they're listed there if everyone stays healthy. Like, yes, they're the 31st or whatever they're listed at if everyone's healthy. But, like, the chances of them being healthy aren't high. And that's why, like, I always try to get 2 starters and 2 backups so I can fill them in.
See, I'm more of make sure I get my starting lineup filled, like flex, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, get the starting lineup filled, maybe another backup, and then I look for a quarterback.
And then just use the waiver wire. Like, are you a big waiver wire guy then? During the middle of the season?
I mean,
because like you got to be deep. That's like from what you're saying.
Yeah, but you can still find guys.
Because like I'm just saying, like with your strategy, like say you get 2 running backs, 2 receivers, flex, and then you go quarterback. Now you've only got 2 receivers. What happens when Allen Robinson tears his ACL in training camp? What happens when what I'm saying?
I'll put in the guy that I got after my quarterback.
Yeah, I mean. That's where I think Dylan and I agree on this. It sounds like I'd rather have depth at receivers. So that way I have Allen Robinson, give me another top receiver, OBJ maybe in the first round. And then I've also got a guy like Stephon Diggs. So that way if Allen Robinson gets hurt, I've still got a guy like Stephon Diggs to go in who can still be productive at a top-ish tier level.
Yeah, plus just because of the point, like I would rather take my chances on a running back who could maybe give me 15 to 20 points a game in like the 8th round than going for like drafting Ben Roethlisberger instead of Derek Carr. Like, no, I'm saying that there's not that much of a difference at all between those guys.
You're hating on Derek.
And I would rather wait a few more rounds and rather have a better chance at a running back who's going to do that. Plus, you can always look at free agency to the waiver wire. Every week you could go and pick up a quarterback.
I do know some people that do quarterback by committee. Like I do a defense by committee. I know some people that do quarterback by committee. Every single week they get a free agent quarterback because it's not worth their time. So like they just go all running back, all receiver, all super deep, and then just like they'll deal with Jared Goff for a week, and then they'll go get a Tyrod Taylor, then they'll get a Josh McCown. Like they're fine with it.
Yeah, and you look at last season in a lot of leagues, I didn't draft Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson, but I hopped on their bandwagons early and picked up both of them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end because they both got injured, but like that is a great QB duo.
Yeah.
That I had going for a while.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit earlier than you guys, but I think we all have the same kind of concept here.
Yeah. How many quarterbacks do you get? 1, 2, or 3?
2.
2? I go 1. I always get 1.
Unless
there's a young guy I love. Like if I don't know what it is. Like if there's a Deshaun Watson that I loved. I didn't last year, but like if that's the only reason I go 2. I always usually go 1 though.
I like to do 2 usually to switch them out, but if there's a position player that I have my eye on, I wouldn't be disappointed if I only got 1.
I guess for me, I just very highly value the wide receiver position because anybody can catch a touchdown. And like if you get a touchdown, you're fine. Like that's 6 points. That's all you need from the receiver that you got off the free agent. So like
I
try to get as
backs.
many shots at like I try to get as many deep wide receivers. So like maybe like a Terrell Pryor on the Jets this year, where like he's not going to be great, or like a Cortland Sutton or a guy like that, where it's like they're deep and they might play, might not. A Calvin Ridley, those type of guys, just because they can catch a touchdown. So that way when OBJ does get hurt, you've got somebody that might be able to fill in that role. Last question for you guys. Let's get into your rankings a little bit. I'm assuming we all have Brady, Rodgers at some ranking of 1 and 2. So after that, who rounds out your top 5?
All right, so number 3, I have Carson Wentz, 4, Russell Wilson, and 5, Deshaun Watson.
You have 2 guys coming off ACL injury. Does that scare you at all?
Not really.
Carson Wentz might not be able to play week 1.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a huge concern. He's not going to lose the job or anything, and once he gets back, I think he'll be fine.
Right.
But your third quarterback in fantasy, you're not going to draft if he's not playing week 1. You're not drafting Andrew Luck number 3 if you thought he was that good because he got health. You're not going to draft him because he might not be able to play all 16 games. I agree with the Deshaun Watson one. I have him number 4. The Carson Wentz one concerned because he might not play week 1.
Right.
Wouldn't he be number 12 that you draft as a backup type thing?
Wentz at 12?
I'm just saying in general, a deeper number.
Oh, no. I have Wentz at I was debating putting him at 5, but with his status still unknown.
Draft him so you have a draft tomorrow. Say you have a draft tomorrow. You know he's playing week 1. You're going to draft him as your starting quarterback? I wouldn't.
Obviously you would get a backup for him, but
really?
I think you could fill in for the first 3 weeks. I wouldn't be concerned long term about Wentz.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you just get Phillip Rivers to fill it for 3 weeks, or Ben Roethlisberger. I see what you're saying.
And like I said, if you really wanted to pull the trigger on Wentz, I wouldn't be mad about it because you can get somebody around the 20th quarterback range to look at their schedule, see who's easy for the first 3 weeks, and try to draft one of those guys.
Yeah, so I have Wilson at 3. He finished first among quarterbacks in standard scoring leagues last year, so I'll expect close to that this year. I have Watson at 4. He put up crazy numbers when he was healthy last year. If he's healthy this year, then I don't see why we can't expect the same. I have Wentz. I debated putting him in my top 5 like we just said, but his status is still unknown. So right now I wouldn't put him at 5, but if he starts game 1, then he is no doubt a top 5 quarterback for me. Cam Newton, that's who I would put at 5 right now because I don't know about Carson Wentz. Newton was pretty close to his old self last year and finished as the second best fantasy quarterback without Greg Olsen. So I don't expect anything less from him.
Yeah, so I have Breeze at my third quarterback. I have Watson at number 4, Wilson at 5. I have Breeze at 3 just because besides the touchdowns and overall attempts, he didn't have that bad of a season. I think both of those go up this year, and people are starting to push him down lower in the rankings, and he could be a steal where you get him at a Tier 2, Tier 3 value, but still get a Tier 1 talent. So I definitely think he's a guy that I'm going to keep my eye on. If he does slip down to me in a 10, 12-team league, if he's at the 60s, I might take him and might sacrifice that depth that I just talked about because I can get a guy that I believe is a top 3 quarterback.
Jeez.
Keep going. And Deshaun Watson, he took the league by storm, and the games he played 3 AFC playoff teams. He was balling. The ACL injury shortened his season, but I cannot wait to see what Watson and Hopkins do all season long. I think it's going to be such a fun year in Houston. And then 5, Russell Wilson. They have no running game. Maybe Brandon Marshall can replace Jimmy Graham's red zone production, but Russell's going to have to do it all, and he's been a top 3 quarterback 3 out of the past 4 years. So,
yeah. So the one thing I don't get with yours is Wilson not in front of Breeze. I
do think that Breeze will be I think Breeze is going to ball next year.
But you know what you're getting in Russell Wilson.
I think I know I'm getting in Drew Brees. I've seen him be this way for 10.
See, that's the thing.
I don't know.
Last year just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I'm just very confident in Drew Brees because he is the model of consistency. And if I don't want to go early on a Rodgers or a Brady, I can get that same consistency in the back end of this draft.
See, I'd say that about Wilson.
Yeah, he hasn't missed a game
because their offensive line's terrible.
It's always been terrible.
Yeah,
he's but he could get hurt just as he is not have a good offensive line. He doesn't have very many weapons, so I'm worried about his long-term health if he gets hurt because no one's blocking for him. The division is revamped this year. The Niners are good. The Rams are very good, and the Cardinals have pieces on the defensive side that he's going to play them twice a year. They've also got some tough opponents in their schedule. I don't know. I don't really trust his durability as much as I did because
he hasn't missed a game ever.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's going to start waning because that offensive line is just continuing to get worse. He's getting older.
But it's not any different.
I mean, it's got worse. They lost pieces on the offensive line again, and they lost Jimmy Graham. And unless you bank on Brandon Marshall being good, I mean, I just don't really think he's going to have – I don't think he has many weapons. Doug Baldwin, I think, is going to have a great season. But besides Doug Baldwin, they lost Paul Richardson, they lost Jimmy Graham, and they got Brandon Marshall. Like, I just don't think he's enough weapons to be a top 3 quarterback. I definitely think he's top 5. I'm putting Deshaun Watson ahead of him, too, because I think Deshaun Watson is going to be one heck of a quarterback this year.
Oh, yeah.
But I love Drew Brees, and I love Deshaun Watson this year, and Russell Wilson's just under that tier for me.
All right.
Yeah. We got any other comments on the quarterback position? I'm looking at this mock draft right now. They have Andrew Luck taken in the 16th round. They had Jared Goff taken in the 15th round. So there's definitely deep quarterbacks there. How early do you think the first quarterback should go, guys?
Should go?
Yeah.
Or will go?
Like, where do you value the first quarterback? 30s? 20s? 40s?
40s.
10s?
40s.
I wouldn't take one.
Not you. Like, where would you put? Like, where would Rodgers? Like, where should Rodgers' ADP be? Or should Brady's?
50, because I would never draft one before there. So
that's crazy. I mean, I think he's definitely. I think their ADP is still 30 or 40 because I mean, Rodgers or Brady can still win you fantasy games. Like if
you would take them in the 3rd round.
If I needed, if I thought that they weren't that deep, yeah, I think they're still worth that. Like I would take Aaron Rodgers before I took. Like I think he's just as valuable, if not more, than Deion Lewis or Julian Edelman or those kind of guys. Or who else is in that same? Like Mark Ingram, Evan Ingram, Golden Tate, Devin Funchess, Alex Collins, like those kind of guys. Like I'm.
Yeah, I'd consider it definitely.
Yeah, like I just don't think it's like I definitely would wait because of how deep it is. But like if I'm looking at the number one guy, I want to get the first quarterback taken. I'm definitely taking him around the 30s, 35s probably, just because if I want to make sure I get him. That's gonna do it for this episode. Make sure you stay tuned next week for running backs. It'll be the same type of format. We'll change up a few things, but I mentioned a Scooch giveaway in the beginning. Here it is. You get a 15% off discount, like I said, with using the code SPORTS18, sports with a Z. But if you comment or subscribe before the end of July, you'll be entered for a free Scooch case. So make sure you do that. Comment and subscribe on YouTube at The Sports Sermon, sports with a Z. Follow us on Twitter at The Sports Sermon, sports with a Z again. And thank you for listening. Make sure you go check out our NFL, NBA, and college football previews on YouTube now.